My son sold my house on a Tuesday afternoon, not after I died, not because I asked him to, not because I couldn't remember my own name. He sold it while I was still sitting in my favorite chair, drinking tea, believing I was going home after my hip surgery. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I am 90 years old, and the hardest thing I've ever lost wasn't my husband. It wasn't my health. It wasn't even my independence. It was opening an envelope in a rehabilitation center and discovering that the front door I had locked every night for 43 years no longer belonged to me. People still tell me my son did what he thought was best. Maybe he believed that. But believing you're helping someone and asking them what they want are not the same thing. If you think something like this could never happen inside your own family, please stay with me, because there was one mistake I made years before any papers were signed. I didn't understand it then. I do now. And if I can spare even one person from making that same mistake, these 10 minutes will be worth it. I wasn't rich, never had been. My house wasn't large, 2 bedrooms, red brick, a white fence that Earl painted every spring before arthritis stole the strength from his hands. The porch creaked when it rained. The kitchen window looked over 2 rose bushes I'd planted the year my youngest grandson was born. Nothing extraordinary, but every wall carried my life. You don't realize how much a house remembers until someone else decides it's just property. I had lived there 43 years, paid every mortgage payment, every tax bill, every leaking roof repair, every broken water heater. After Earl passed away, neighbors asked if I wanted to move somewhere smaller. I smiled and told them no, because that house wasn't too big. It was exactly the right size for my memories. Every morning I opened the curtains at 7, fed the birds before I made my own breakfast, watered the roses, read the newspaper by the kitchen window. It wasn't exciting, it was mine. And that's a word people underestimate. Mine. Then I slipped on wet leaves. Nothing dramatic. One awkward step. One broken hip. Doctors assured me I'd recover well. 6 weeks of rehabilitation. Then home. Everyone kept saying, "You'll be back before Christmas." I believed them. My son Daniel visited every few days. He brought magazines, fresh fruit, clean clothes. He smiled often, asked if I needed anything. I remember thinking, I've raised a good man. One afternoon he asked where I kept the house documents. He said someone needed access in case insurance needed updating. Sounded sensible. I even laughed and said, they're still exactly where they've been for 20 years. Inside the blue folder, top shelf, hallway cupboard. I didn't think twice, because why would I? He's my son. Trust doesn't disappear in one afternoon. It disappears one ordinary decision at a time. 5 weeks later, a nurse handed me an envelope. She smiled and said, "This came for you." Inside, a solicitor's letter, address confirmation, property transfer completed, completion date 3 days earlier. I read it 3 times, then 4. I remember looking around the rehabilitation room thinking, surely this belongs to someone else. My hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold the paper. I asked the nurse, "There must be some mistake." She looked confused, then quietly left the room. An hour later, Daniel arrived. He didn't deny it. He simply said, "Mom, the house was becoming too much. I found you somewhere better, better." Such a small word. It can hide enormous things. I asked one question. "Why didn't you ask me?" He looked down, and after a very long silence, he said, "I thought you'd say no." He was right. I would have. That's why he never asked. People hear stories like mine and immediately look for a villain. Life is rarely that simple. Daniel wasn't cruel. He wasn't greedy. At least, I don't believe he was. He convinced himself he was protecting me. That happens more often than people realize. Sometimes people stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a responsibility. Responsibilities get managed. People get asked. There's a difference. Nobody hit me. Nobody shouted. Nobody threatened me. Everything was polite, professional, legal, and somehow I still lost everything that mattered most. Freedom doesn't always disappear with an argument. Sometimes it disappears with signatures, and everyone keeps smiling while it happens. The hardest day wasn't moving out. I wasn't there. The hardest day came 3 months later. A volunteer brought me photographs she'd taken while driving past my old street. She didn't know. She thought she'd cheer me up. The roses were gone. The white fence had been replaced. My kitchen curtains gone. A young family stood on my porch. Children playing where Earl built a swing 40 years earlier. I stared at those pictures until sunset. Not because strangers lived there, because my life had been packed into cardboard boxes. Without me folding a single shirt, someone else decided which memories were worth keeping. No one asked me. That silence still follows me. Then something happened I wasn't expecting. A social worker named Helen visited every Wednesday. Unlike everyone else, she didn't begin by asking, "How are you feeling?" She asked, "Eleanor, what would you choose if nobody else answered for you?" Nobody had asked me that in months. I cried, "No, that's not quite right." I didn't cry immediately. I just stared at her. I'd almost forgotten I was allowed to have an answer. We spent weeks talking, not about medicine, not about aging, about choice, small choices. What time I'd like breakfast, which jumper I'd rather wear, whether I wanted to sit outside, tiny things. And something inside me slowly returned. Because dignity isn't built from grand speeches. It's built from ordinary decisions that still belong to you. If you have aging parents, please hear me. One conversation can save years of regret. Do not wait until the ambulance comes. Do not wait until the hospital bed. Do not wait until paperwork appears. Ask them now, where do you want to live? What matters most to you? What would you never willingly give away? You might not like every answer, but they deserve the dignity of giving it. Love without listening can become control without meaning to, and once choice disappears, it's very difficult to give it back. My house is gone, the roses are gone, the white fence is gone, but every morning I still make my own cup of tea. I still open the curtains before anyone else wakes, because as long as there is one decision left that still belongs to me, I am still home somewhere. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and join me for the next one. There are thousands of stories like mine that are never told, and perhaps hearing them today will help someone make a different choice tomorrow.